good night, my friend. Thy meaning is clear, the message hath found its mark, and I do grasp it full well. Trouble not thyself with further words, for the seed of understanding hath taken root in mine own mind. I shall proceed as thou intendest, for thy will is known, as for me is all is well, and thus I say with heart and with a line 'tis understood. You know, okay. I'm just gonna restart our creepypasta rating, chat. Some people might recall the momentary buzz caused in 2009 by a particularly odd Morrowind mod. The file name was JVK1166z.esp. It was never posted on any of the larger Elder Scrolls communities, only smaller boards and role-playing groups. I know in a few cases, rather than being posted, it was sent via PM or email to a chosen few. It was only up for a few days, to the best of my knowledge. It caused a buzz because it was a virus, or seemed to be. If you tried to load the game with the mod active, it would hang at the initial load screen for a full hour and then crash to the desktop. If you let it get that far, your install of Morrowind, along with any save files you had, would become completely corrupted. Nobody could figure out what the mod was trying to do. Since it couldn't be opened in the construction set, eventually warnings were distributed not to use it if you found it, and things died down. About a year later, in a mod board I used to frequent, someone popped up with the mod again. He said it was PM'd by a lurker who deleted his account immediately after sending. He also said that the person advised him to try playing the mod through DOSBox. For some reason, this worked. Sort of. The game was a bit laggy, and you couldn't get in options, load game, the console, or really anything else. Other than the game itself, the quick save and quick load hot buttons worked, but that was it. A quick save file seemed to be just part of the game itself, so you couldn't get at it anymore. Some speculated that the changed game used an older graphics renderer, making DOSBox necessary, but it didn't look any different. This part I can speak about from personal experience. When you start a new game in JVK, as the board came to call it, once you leave the starting bit in the census office and come into the game proper, the first thing you notice is that the prophecy has been severed box pops up. This is because every single NPC having to do with the main quest is dead, with the sole exception of Yagrum Bargain, the last of the Dwemer. Their corpses never despawn, so you can go check on all of them. In effect, you begin in a world that is doomed to start with. The second thing you notice is that you're losing health. It's only a bit, but it keeps happening. It's a little bit at a time. The longer you stay in one place, the quicker it seems to occur. If you let this health loss kill you, you'll find the cause, a figure we came to all call the Assassin, because he seems to wear a retextured version of the Dark Brotherhood armor from the Tribunal. Even though the expansions don't work in JVK, it's all black, completely untextured, like he's just a hole in space. The way he moves, he gave me quite a start. The first time I saw him scuttling around my dead body, he crawls inhumanly on his hands and feet, his arms and legs splayed out like a spider. You'd usually only see him after death crawling around over your body just before the reload box popped up. Occasionally, you could catch a glimpse of him darting around a corner or crawling on a wall or ceiling. It made the game very difficult to play in the dark. Other than that, the only noticeable difference is that at night, at random intervals, every NPC in the game will go outside for a few minutes. During this time, the only thing they will say when hailed is, "Watch the sky," Once they return to their normal behavior, they act regularly, though. After a while, a player on the board discovered a new NPC named Tyrus, a male Dunmer in the temple at Ghostgate. Two things are notable about this NPC. First is his robe, a unique article of clothing that was lovingly rendered with twinkling stars all across it, looking like a torn-off chunk of the night sky. The second is that all of his dialogue, in addition to showing up in the dialogue box, is voiced. You can skip it if you wish, but it all sounds like it's in the default male Dunmer voice. Some people said that they thought this voice was slightly different, but it was a very, very good imitation. I won't go into the details, but the quest line he sends you on has to do with a dungeon referred to simply as the Citadel. Up until this point, the quests were all of a fairly generic, discover the secrets of the ancients type. The entrance to this dungeon is on a small island far to the west of Morrowind proper. I eventually discovered that if you used a scroll of Icarian flight at the westernmost point on the main landmass and jumped directly west, you'd end up almost exactly at the island. Even though the dungeon is called the Citadel, it goes straight down. It dwarfs any other dungeon, both in size and difficulty. From a natural cave area, you'll proceed down into an ancestral tomb-looking area, then a Daedric ruin area, and then a Dwemer ruin area. I made it down to the Dwemer ruins before I quit. The creatures here were so strong that a level 20 character would have to take care. And since you can't use the console in JVK, level 20 took a while to get to. Since quick save and quick load are your only options, it's all too easy to get yourself into an impossible situation, too. I did, and I just didn't have the energy to start over. What I'm telling you now is based on the testimony of those few who went further past the Dwemer ruins. You apparently find yourself in a level like the Dwemer ruins, but darker. Rather than the usual bronze, all the surfaces, including those of the creatures, are black. The sounds of machinery are loud here, and will grow louder still. Randomly, there's also steam or fog everywhere, limiting your vision to about 10 in-game feet or so. If you can make it through all of this, you will reach a room at the end of the hall. Those who found it called it the portrait room. Like the fire and torches or other effects from early 3D games, this room has picture frames that always face directly at you. No matter how you look at them, the images in the frames are always randomly chosen images from your My Pictures folder. On the board, the ones who got to this point had some fun posting screenshots of the portrait room with various pictures in the frames. Usually porn, of course. At the end of the hall was another locked door. After admitting defeat and returning to Tyrus, he could be found saying, "Watch the sky," in his gravelly voice. What's more, nobody else in the game would say anything. Talking to them would present a completely blank dialogue box with no options at all. They wouldn't even rattle off the usual canned, audible greetings. The only exception was at night, whenever they would go out for a few minutes. They'd repeated, "Watch the sky." At this point, one of the players, a friend of mine from the board, noticed, and the few others who got this far agreed. The night sky was no longer the usual night sky of Tamriel. It had changed to a depiction of the real night sky, and it moved. From this point on, everything is based on what this one person reported. Eventually, he got himself kicked from the board, but I kept in contact with him for as long as he responded. According to him, based on the constellations and planets, the sky started around February 2005. If you died, loaded, or went back into the Citadel, it would start over. When the usual day sky graphics took over, the movement would be suspended until the stars appeared again. In the space of a single night, everything would move about 2 months' worth, since the timescale of JVK was more or less that of the standard game. That meant that a bit less than an hour was equal to a 24-hour period. He became convinced that the door would open based on some kind of celestial event. Of course, waiting for that meant leaving the game running. Of course, that meant the game couldn't be left unattended, thanks to our old friend, the assassin. My friend decided he'd hang out for a whole day, just to see if anything happened. That would be about a year's worth of movement. Here's the post he made at the end of the experiment. Quote, I loaded into Satanine, where it all starts. It wasn't too bad. Just had to check in now and then to move around to heal and make sure I wasn't dying. But check it out. 24 hours, exactly, and the assassin learns a new trick. He screams. I was reading, and all of a sudden this crazy loud shriek just makes me crap myself. It was like something out of a horror movie. I look up, and there he is, just crouched down right in front of me. Of course, the second I moved my character, he ran off. When I went back down to the portrait room, the door was still locked. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! End quote. A bit later, he came to the decision that he needed to wait 3 days. 3 years. His reasoning was that the PM advising us to try DOSBox showed up in early February of 2008. That was the point he needed to get to. After the first shriek, the assassin stops hitting you. Oh, quote, after the first shriek, the assassin stops hitting you out of nowhere. Now, he'll shriek, and if you don't move for a few seconds after that, he hits you. I think whoever made the mod was trying to help. At night, I've got my headphones on, and I was just kind of dozing off. When he wakes me up with a shriek, I jiggle the mouse, and I'm good. End quote. That post was 2 days in from his laptop once it was over. Quote, fuck! So fucking done. So I wait 3 days, right? And right after the fucking assassin made me jiggle the mouse, he shrieks again. So I look, and everyone in town is outside. They're all saying, watch the sky. I don't see anything, though. But then the game starts getting dark. Like, really dark. I turn the brightness all the way up on my monitor, and I can still barely see. There are other people in the game, little figures running around in the distance, just going back and forth. If I try to get close, they run off. Now I was trying to sleep. So the lights were off, and this was kind of creepy. I didn't want to get up to turn on my light, because I didn't want to miss anything. But nothing fucking happens. Eventually I go to the Citadel. It was still dark, and I had to swim. The whole time I could see all these guys swimming all around me, just barely there. I make it to the Citadel, and it's normal light inside, and I get worried. Sure enough, the portrait door is still fucking closed. I go outside, and it's all starting over. So that's it. I'm fucking going to bed, and I'm fucking done. The end. End quote. After that, 2 things happened. First, someone else who got the portrait room claimed that the assassin was showing up in his regular Morrowind game. Parentheses. Quick explanation. If you reinstalled Morrowind to a different folder, you could have a normal Morrowind install along with JVK. end parentheses. He himself chalked it up to an overreactive imagination at first, but he reported a couple of really big scares with the black figure crawling right at him, or seeing it wait just around a corner before scuttling off. Another of those who reached the portrait room started a regular Morrowind game, but never saw him for sure. It was just a couple of maybes late at night, and always at a distance. The second is that my friend started getting really abusive and short-tempered on the board. Though he stopped talking about JVK entirely, it got so bad that he was soon kicked off. I didn't hear anything from him for a couple of weeks after that, so I sent him an email. This was part of his reply. Quote, I know I shouldn't have, but with classes out, I had some time, so I started JVK up again. It's almost 2011 and I think I've got the sleep madness. But stuff is happening. It's still dark. Once it gets dark, it never gets any lighter. It stays like that. The people moved a few months ago. Everyone in Zeta Neen just went to that little bandit cave and moved in. They killed all the bandits inside, and now they're just standing around inside. They don't say anything anymore. They don't do anything when you click on them. I quick-saved and killed one, and then he just stood there until he died without fighting back. And it's like that everywhere. You have to walk, since the quick travel people are all in caves now too. But all the cities and towns are deserted. Their people are in caves and tombs. Everyone in Vivek is down in the sewers. I'm going to Ghostgate next. I want to see if Terrace is still there. I'll tell you what he says when I get there. End quote. I replied and said I wanted to see what he said too, and waited a day. When I didn't get a reply, I mailed him again, and a couple of hours later he sent back, quote, sorry, I totally forgot. So it's 2014 now. Since it's always night, the stars are always moving. The whole screen is dark, but you can still see the brightest stars moving around. Tyrus was gone. Everyone in Ghostgate was gone. I don't know where they went. They're not in any of the nearby caves. But there's new stuff. People still don't say anything, but their eyes are bleeding. It's so dark that even with a light spell, you have to get right up against them to see. But there they are. Little dark streaks coming down from their eyes. I think I gotta be getting close. I know this is stupid, and there's no way the payoff is going to be worth it. But I just want to be able to say I stuck it out. End quote. I got that one during the day. Later that night, I received a follow-up email. Quote, some of the planets aren't moving right. It's pissing me off. If this keeps up, I won't be able to keep track anymore. It's almost 2015 now, I think. Fuck. You know what? I just now noticed that there aren't any monsters anymore, either. I'm completely alone outside. Now, in the main quest, people's bodies are still laying around, though. I want to check on them. I don't need headphones anymore, so I just leave them off. When he shrieks, it's like he's screaming right into my ear. I think I kind of anticipated. He's around a lot more now, a lot closer. He's different from the other people who started showing up. Remember? They keep running around and where I can barely see them. I have to admit, it's kind of creepy at night. Sometimes when I go to the bathroom or whenever. I swear I can see something out of the corner of my eye. I'm keeping all the lights on now. End quote. I sent him a letter, jokingly, telling him to get some real sleep. And he left it at that. 2 mornings later, I found this in my email. It was the last thing I got from him. After it, he stopped responding completely. Quote, I just got out from a fucked up dream, I think. The assassin shrieked at me, and when I opened my eyes, he was right there, crouching over me. His arms and legs were longer and more like a spider's. When I tried to push him away, but then when I touched him, my hands went inside and I couldn't get them loose again, like he was made of tar or something. Then I woke up. I thought he was gone, but when I looked at the monitor, I wasn't where I was. I was in the corpusarium with Yagram. For once, the light was okay, and I could see him all bloated on those mechanical spider legs. I sat down at my computer, and he started talking to me, not in a box, but really talking to me in Tierra's voice. He knew things about me. He told me things that I never told anyone, and some things I totally forgot about. He told me that almost nobody had made it this far, and that the door would open up soon. I just had to hang on a little while longer. He said I'd know when it was time. He said I might be the first one to see what was inside. And then I woke up, for real. But I was at the computer. I still wasn't where I was. Right now, I'm swimming out to the Citadel Island, and I can hear this tapping. It's at my window. It's on the left. So I'm sending you this because I left my laptop by my bed. To the right, just a little... like he's knocking his finger against the glass. I might still be dreaming now. End quote. I guess that's the end of the story. I know there are a few other tales floating around about this mod, but this is the only one I know is true. As far as it goes, I deleted my JVK copy of the game pretty much right after I gave up. But I'd like to get the mod again. If anyone still has a copy of the file, I want to see some of this for myself. Original author, unknown. Originally uploaded on April 23rd, 2011. We're coming really close to this story's birthday, aren't we? Well, what did you guys think of this one? I kind of got into ASMR mode because I realized I could go ahead and do that if you all didn't end up falling asleep to my sultry voice when I'm not yelling my fucking head off. What did you all think? Is this something I should keep doing, y'all? Ella ASMR? Yeah, I ended up putting it inside of the title. Because I did. Oh, on Kev Smell My Fart, you have to say yes? Absolute cinema. But what did we think of the story? Did you guys think the story was good? Because I think that leaves a lot to be interpreted. This assassin character, I think, is very generic. I do like the screenshots that are supplied. I think they're very, very cool. But I think that it's pretty good. It's alright. It's easily understood. I think it's fine. It's a pretty good one. A good one to start. Oh can read the Russian sleep experiment or Squidward suicide. I'm gonna make a poll. New poll. I think I have to type that because it's not gonna let me do that. There you go. All right. Poll is live. Poll is live, chat. Poll is live. So go ahead and vote. Russian sleep experiment? You all want to see the Russian sleep experiment? It seems like that's the one that people want, so we'll go to that one. Alright, I'll be ending the poll. End poll. There we go. Russian sleep experiment wins. Alright. The Russian sleep experiment. It's a pretty long one. The iconic image. The iconic image. Alright. Let me drink some water. Let's get into it. The Russian... Let me put both my headphones on for this. Understandable. Both of them? You're gonna wear 2 pairs of headphones? That's crazy. You mean both? You mean both ears of the headphones, whatever it is. The Russian sleep experiment. Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experimental gas-based stimulant. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor their oxygen intake, so the gas didn't kill them. Since it was toxic in high concentrations, this was before closed-circuit cameras, so they had only microphones in 5-inch thick glass porthole-sized windows into the chamber to monitor them. The chamber was stocked with books and cots to sleep on, but no bedding, as well as running water, a toilet, and enough dried food to last all 5 for over a month. The test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemy of the state during World War II. Everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained, having been promised, falsely, that they would be freed if they submitted to the tests, and did not sleep for 30 days. Their conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past. I mean, understandably, if I was locked in a room with 5 guys, or 4 for an extended period of time, I too would probably talk about traumatic things. The general tone of their conversations took on a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and events that led them to where they were, and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. They stopped talking to each other and began alternatively whispering into the microphones and one-way mirrored potholes. Oddly, they all seemed to think they could win the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades, the other subjects in captivity, with them. At first, the researchers suspected this was an effect of the gas itself. After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber, repeatedly yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight, at which point he continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords, The most surprising thing about this behavior was how the other captors reacted to it, or rather, didn't react to it. They continued whispering into the microphones until the second of the captives started to scream. The two non-screaming captives took the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces, and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped. So did the whispering into the microphones. After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure they were working, since they thought it impossible that no sound could be occurring with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must still be alive. In fact, it was the amount of oxygen 5 people would consume at a very heavy level of strenuous exercise. On the morning of the 14th day, the researchers did something they said they would not do to get a reaction from the captives. They used the intercom inside the chamber, hoping to provoke any response from the people they were afraid were either dead or vegetables. They announced, "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the ground or you'll be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom." End quote. To their surprise, they heard a calm voice respond in a single phrase. Quote, "We no longer want to be freed." End quote. Debate broke out among the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response from the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed of the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air. And immediately, the voices from the microphones began to object. 3 different voices began begging as if pleading for the life of loved ones to turn the gas back on. The chamber was opened and soldiers were sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever. And so did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state that any of them in life. The food rations past day 5 had not been so much as touched. There were chunks of meat from the dead test subject's thighs and chest stuffed into the drain in the center of the chamber, blocking it and allowing the 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Precisely how much of the water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. The destruction of flesh and exposed bone on the fingertips indicated that the wounds were inflicted by hand, not with teeth, as the researchers initially thought. Closer examination of the position and angles of the wound indicated that most, if not all, of them were self-inflicted. The abdominal organs below the ribcage of all 4 test subjects had been removed, while the heart, lungs, and diaphragm remained in place. The skin and most of the muscles to the ribs had been ripped off, exposing the lungs through the ribcage. All the blood vessels and organs remained intact, but had been taken and out and laid on the floor, fanning out around the eviscerated but still living bodies of the subjects. The digestive tracts of all 4 could be seen to be working. digesting food. It quickly became apparent that they were digesting what they were digesting was their own flesh that they had ripped off and eaten over the course of days. Most of the soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still, many refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. The subjects themselves continued to scream to be left in the chamber and begged and demanded that the gas be turned back on, lest they fall asleep. To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One of the Russian soldiers died from having his throat ripped out, and another was gravely injured by having his testicles ripped off and an artery in his leg severed by one of the subject's teeth. Another 5 of the soldiers lost their lives, if you count the ones that committed suicide in the weeks following the incident. In the struggle, one of the 4 living subjects had his spleen ruptured and bled out almost immediately. The medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times the human dose of morphine derivative and still fought like a cornered animal, breaking the ribs and arm of one doctor. His heart was seen to beat for a full 2 minutes after he had bled out, to the point there was more air in his vascular system than blood. Even after it stopped, he continued to scream and flail for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach, and just repeating the word more over and over, weaker and weaker, until he finally fell silent. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility, the 2 with intact vocal cords continuously begging for the gas, demanding to be kept awake. The most injured of the 3 was taken to the only surgical operating room that the facility had. In the process of preparing the subject to have his organs placed back within his body, it was found that he was effectively immune to the sedative that they had given him to prepare for the surgery. He fought furiously against his restraints. When the anesthetic gas was brought out to put him under, he managed to tear most of the way through a 4-inch wide leather strap on one wrist. Even though the weight of a 200-pound soldier holding that wrist, it took only a little more anesthetic than normal to put him under. And the instant his eyelids fluttered and closed, his heart stopped. In the autopsy of the test subject that died on the operating table, it was found that his blood had tripled the normal level of oxygen. The muscles that were still attached to his skeleton were badly torn, and he had broken 9 bones in a struggle to not be subdued. Most of them were from the force of his own muscles had exerted on them. I'm gonna be here a while, chap. The second survivor had been the first of the group to have of 5 to start screaming. His vocal cords destroyed. He was unable to beg or object to surgery. He only reacted by shaking his head violently in disapproval. When the anesthetic gas was brought near him, he shook his head yes when someone suggested reluctantly that they should try the surgery without anesthetic, and did not react for the entire 6-hour procedure of replacing his abdominal organs and attempting to cover them with what remained of his skin. The surgeon presiding stated repeatedly that it should not medically be possible for the patient to still be alive. One terrified nurse assisting the surgery stated that she had seen the patient's mouth curl into a smile several times whenever his eyes met hers. When the surgery ended, the subject looked at the surgeon and began to wheeze loudly, attempting to talk while struggling. Assuming this must be something of drastic importance, the surgeon had a pen and pad fetched so that the patient could write his message. It was simple. Keep cutting. The other two test subjects were given the same surgery, both without anesthetic as well, although they had to be injected with a paralytic for the duration of the operation. The surgeon found it impossible to perform the operation while the patients laughed continuously. Once paralyzed, the subjects could only follow the attending researchers with their eyes. The paralytic cleared their system in an abnormally short period of time, and they were soon trying to escape their bonds. The moment they could speak, they were again asking for the stimulant gas. The researchers tried asking why they had injuries themselves, why they had ripped out their own guts, and why they wanted to be given the gas again. Only one response was given: I must remain awake. All three subjects' restraints were reinforced, and they were placed back into the chamber, awaiting determination as to what should be done with them. The researchers, facing the wrath of the military benefactors for having failed the stated goals of their project, considered euthanizing the surviving subjects. The commanding officer, an ex-KGB, instead saw potential and wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. The researchers strongly objected, but were overruled. In preparation for being sealed in the chamber again, the subjects were connected to an egg EEG monitor and had their restraints padded for long-term confinement. To everyone's surprise, all three stopped struggling the moment it was let slip that they were going back on the gas. It was obvious that, at this point, all three were putting up a great struggle to stay awake. One of the subjects that could speak was humming loudly and continuously. The mute subject was straining his legs against the leather bonds with all his might. First his left, then right, then left again for something to focus on. The remaining subject was holding his head off his pillow and blinking rapidly. Having been the first to be wired to the EEG machine, most of the researchers were monitoring his brain waves in surprise. They were normal most of the time, but sometimes flatlined inexplicably. It looked as if he were repeating suffering brain death before returning to normal. As they focused on paper scrolling out of the brainwave monitor, only one nurse saw the man's eyes slip shut at the moment his head hit the pillow. His brainwaves immediately changed to that of deep sleep, then flatlined for the last time as his heart simultaneously stopped. The only remaining subject that could speak started screaming to be sealed in now. His brainwaves showed the same flat lines as the ones who had just died before falling asleep. The commander gave the order to seal the chamber with both subjects inside. as well as 3 researchers. One of the named 3 immediately drew his gun and shot the commander point blank between the eyes, then turned the gun on the mute subject and blew his brains out as well. He pointed his gun at the remaining subject, still restrained to a bed as the remaining members of the medical and research team fled the room. I won't be locked in here with these things. Not with you, he screamed at the man strapped to the table. What are you? He demanded. I must know. The subject smiled. Have you forgotten so easily? The subject asked. We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go into the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread. End quote. The researcher paused, then aimed at the subject's heart and fired. The EEG flatlined as the subject weakly choked out. So nearly free. Original author, unknown. I feel like one of those weird like horror channels now, chat. I feel like them. Also, did you guys hear my fucking loud as hell neck crack during that? Are we liking this, chat? Are we liking ASMR Cream? Is this appealing, chat? Do we have fans? Yes, this shit's peak. I was getting into character. Chat, I was making the noises that I think they would make during the Russian sleep experiment. Peak audiobook. Yeah. I have really, really loud neck cracks. It's actually insane how loud my neck cracks get, chat. Also, everyone, please welcome to the stream Big B 2020 and Blout Gets Clout. I see you in chat and I wanted to say hello. So welcome into the stream, you two. Thank you so much for tuning in. Anyhow, let's get into our next story. Not the ASMR. Yeah, we're doing ASMR right now. You just missed on the Russian sleep experiment. So that was peak. Alright, we're gonna hold a poll. We're going to hold a poll. Do you like ASMR? Sin, do you like ASMR? We do that, and then we'll go between bend, round, and Squidward, sewer, slide. There we go. Poll's live. Poll is live. I usually turn on ASMR Minecraft long play to sleep. I see. I've always enjoyed the Russian sleep experiment because it is pretty accurate to the times of World War II with the Axis experimentation and the medical mystery aspect. Just not too fond of the extreme mutilation descriptions, but that's because I'm squeamish. I can't survive in quiet environment. Well then don't. You're free to leave. Also, chat, are we going to vote? Are we going to vote on which story? Been drowned or Squidward sewer slide? Which one is it, chat? Go on then. Decide. I can't pick something on my own. But yeah, I think that the gore descriptions within the Russian sleep experiment are a bit more tasteful than some of the other ones, since at least it actually, first of all, it takes the effort to describe everything rather than just saying, like, guts on the floor. Like, it uses adjectives, it explains it and says what it was. Not you being quiet, though. You always loud. I know. That's why I said ASMR Cream. Real? Are we liking this? I know I'm always loud. I wanted to try something new and see if chat liked it. However, chat, Squidward Sewer Slide is indeed the winner. Here we are. Let me get a drink in and we'll go for this one. The Russian sleep experiment was always a really fun one. Always was a really fun one. Tasty water. Alright, let's get right into it. Squidward's suicide. I just want to start off by saying that if you want an answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There isn't one. I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios for a year in 2005 for my degree in animation. Also, chat, real quick question. Does it sound good? Is it like ASMR coded? Am I good volume and stuff like that? Just wondering. Wasn't paid, of course. Most internships aren't. But it did have a perk beyond education. To adults, it might not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would go crazy over it. Since I worked directly with the editors and animators, I got to view new episodes days before they aired. I'll get right to it, without giving too many unnecessary details. They had very recently made the SpongeBob movie. The entire staff was somewhat sapped of creativity, so it took them longer to start up the season, but the delay lasted longer for more upsetting reasons. There was a problem with the Series 4 premiere that set everyone and everything back several months. Me and two other interns were in the editing room, along with the lead animators and sound editors. For the final cut of an episode, we received the copy that was supposed to be Fear of a Krabby Patty, and gathered around the screen to watch. Now, given that the final cut isn't final yet, animators often put up a mock title card at the beginning. It's sort of an inside joke for us, with phonies, oftentimes lewd titles being used, such as How Sex Doesn't Work instead of Rockabye Bivalve, in which SpongeBob and Patrick adopt a sea scallop. Nothing particularly funny, just work-related chuckles. So, when we saw the title card, Squidward Suicide, we didn't think about it more than a morbid joke. One of the other interns did a small throat laugh at it. The episode started with the happy-go-lucky music playing as normal. The story began with Squidward practicing his clarinet. Hitting a few sour notes like normal, we hear SpongeBob laughing outside. Squidward stops, yelling at him to keep it down, as he has a concert at night and needs to practice. SpongeBob says okay and goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubble splash screens comes up, and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things begin to seem off. While playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't. it's supposed to be synced with the animation, so yes, that's not common. But when Squidward stops playing, the sound finishes, as if the skip never happened. There is slight murmuring in the crowd before they begin to boo him. Not the normal cartoon booing that's common in the show, mind you. You could clearly hear malice in it. Squidward's in full frame and looks visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd with Squidward with SpongeBob in center frame. He too is booing, which is very much unlike him. That isn't the oddest thing, though. What's odd is that everyone has hyper realistic eyes, all very detailed. Clearly not shops of real people's eyes, but something a bit more real than CGI. The people's were red. Some of us looked at each other, obviously confused, but since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. Yeah, there's the hyper-realistic part, chat. We found the hyper-realistic part. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very forlorn. The view out of his porthole window is of a night sky, so it isn't very long after the concert. The unsettling part is that at this point, there's no sound. Literally zero sound. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, though their statuses showed them working perfectly. Squidward just sits there in his silence, blinking for about 30 seconds, then starts to sob softly. He puts his hands, or tentacles, over his eyes and cries quietly for a full minute more. All the while, a sound in the background is very gradually growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounds like a slight breeze through a forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom in on his face. By slowly, I mean that it's only noticeable if you look at shots 10 seconds apart, side by side. His sobbing gets louder and more full of hurt and anger. The screen then twitches a bit, as if it twists in on itself for a split second before going back to normal. The wind through the trees sound gets louder and more severe, as if a storm is brewing somewhere. The eerie part is that this sound and Squidward's sobbing sounded real. It was like it wasn't coming from the speakers, but that the speakers themselves were holes that the sound was traveling through from the other side. As good a sound as the studio likes to have, they don't have the equipment to be able to produce audio of that quality. Below the sound of the wind and sobbing, very faintly audible, something sounded like laughing. It came at odd intervals and never lasted more than a second, so you had a hard time pinning it. We watched this episode twice, so pardon me if things sound too specific, but I've had time to think about them. After 30 seconds of this, the screen blurred and twitched violently, and after something flashing over it, as if a single frame was replaced, the lead animation editor paused and rewound frame by frame. What we saw was horrible. It was a still photo of a dead child. He couldn't have been more than 6. His face was mangled and bloodied, one eye dangling over it popped. He was naked down to his underwear, his stomach crudely cut open and his entrails splayed out beside him. He was laying on some pavement that was probably a road. The most upsetting part was that there was a shadow of the photographer
but no crime tape, evidence tags, or markers, and the angle was completely off for a shot designed to be evidence. It would seem they were the person responsible for the child's death. We were, of course, mortified, but pressed on, hoping that this was just a sick joke. The screen flipped back to Squidward, still sobbing, louder than before, half of his body in the frame. It was now what appeared to be blood running down his face from his eyes. The blood was also done in a hyper realistic style. Looking as if you'd get it on your fingers if you touched the screen. The wind sounded now as if it were that of a gale blowing down the forest. There were even snapping sounds, like of branches. The laughing, a deep baritone, lasted for longer intervals and came more frequently. After about 20 seconds, the screen again twisted and showed a single frame photo. The editor was reluctant to go back. We all were, but he knew he had to. This time, the photo appeared to be of a little girl no older than the first child. She was laying on her stomach, her barrettes in a pool of blood next to her. Her next eye was damaged in the same way as the boy. A lot of naked children. I don't really like that part of this. It's a little weird. Except for her underpants. Her entrails were piled on top of her, above another crude cut along her back. Again, the body was on the street, and the photographer's shadow was visible, very similar in size and shape to the first. I had to choke back vomit, and one intern, the only female in the room, ran out. The show resumed. About 5 seconds after the second photo played, Squidward went silent. All sound cut out, like it did when he started the scene. He put his tentacles down, and his eyes were now done in hyperrealism. It was done in hyperrealism, guys. Hyperrealism. Don't you guys love hyperrealism? I love hyperrealism. Oh my god, ASMR, like Kriam. I'm here. Yeah, it's ASMR Kriam. His eyes were now done in hyperrealism, like the others were at the beginning of the episode. Hold on, I have to do 5 push-ups because of a channel point redeem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's very weird to have in the middle of an ASMR stream. No, I need to do push-ups. It's killing you. It should be. It's killing me a lot more, though. Now where was I? They were bloodshot, bleeding, and pulsating. He just stared at the screen as if watching the viewer. After about 10 seconds, he started sobbing. This time, not covering his eyes. The sound was piercing and loud. The most fear-inducing thing of all was that his sobbing was mixed with screams. Tears and blood were dripping down his face at a heavy rate. The wind sound came back, and so did the deep-voiced laughing, this time with a still photo that lasted for a good 5 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. animator was able to stop it on the fourth and backed up. This time, the photo was a boy about the same age, but the scene was different. His entrails were being pulled out from his stomach, wound by a large hand. The right eye popped and dangling, blood trickling down it. The animator proceeded. The next frame was different, but we couldn't tell how. He continued to the next image, and it was the same thing. He went back to the first and played them quicker, and I lost it. I vomited on the floor. The animation and sound editors gasping at the screen. The 5 frames were not 5 different photos. They were frames from a video. We saw the hand slowly lift out the guts. We saw the kid's eyes focus on it. We even saw 2 frames of the kid beginning to blink. The lead sound editor told us to stop. Oh, wait, you ended up redeeming another one. Sorry, I almost missed it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The lead sound editor told us to stop. He had a call. He had to call in the creator to see this. Mr. Hillenberg arrived within about 15 minutes. He was confused as to why he had been called down, so the editor just continued the episode. Once the next few frames were shown, all screaming and sound stopped again. Squidward was just staring at the viewer, his face taking up the full frame for about 3 seconds. The shot quickly panned out. That deep voice said, "Do it." And we saw a shotgun in Squidward's hands. He immediately puts the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger. Realistic blood and brain matter splatters up the wall behind him and his bed, and he flies back with force. The last 5 seconds of the episode show his body on the bed, on its side, one eye dangling from what's left of his head above the floor, staring blankly at it. Then the episode ends. Mr. Hillenberg was obviously angry at this. He demanded to know what the hell was going on. Most people left the room at this point, so there were just a handful of us left to watch it again. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the entirety of it in my mind and cause me horrible nightmares. I'm sorry I stayed. The only theory we could think of was that the file had been edited by someone in the chain from the drawing studio to here. The CTO was called in to find out what had happened. Analysis of the file did shows mixed with new material. However, the timestamp of the change was a mere 24 seconds before we began viewing it. All equipment involved was examined for foreign software and hardware, as well as glitches, such as if the timestamp was showing us the wrong time. But everything checked out fine. We didn't know what happened, and to this day, nobody does. There was an investigation due to the nature of the photos, but nothing came of it. No child scene was identified, and no clues were gathered from the data involved, nor physical clues from the photos. I never believed in unexplainable phenomena before, but now that I've had something happen to me and I can't prove anything about it beyond anecdotal evidence, I think twice about things. Credit to Suicide Squidward on Reddit, originally uploaded on August 8th, 2010. well, there's a lot more um, children, children dying in this one than what I originally thought there was, but you know, you win some, you lose some, I wasn't expecting that there would be 3 children that would die in Squidward's suicide, but you learn something new every day, I guess. Well, I think we could all agree that that is not very good. From the fact that it just says things are hyper realistic and realistic, and it's so it looks real, as though it is in the room with you or something like that. Now Squidward's slip and slide is on the complete opposite of the Russian sleep experiment for me. First off, hyper realistic. I have a really hard time suspending my disbelief for this. You keep watching after seeing literal photographed images of dead kids, and you watch it twice? I really don't like how children get written like this. It's icky. Yeah, they were put into the story with the sake of only describing children dying. Like, think about that. That's what the writer did. The writer put them in just as shock value. Children dying, explaining them being nude, as though, something all too not great is happening there. I don't know if Red Mist Squidward is all too much better. However, I know username 666 is a really old YouTube creepypasta, and I want to check this one out since I was never around for this one. Yeah, it's a YouTube channel. Alright, I'm gonna mute, I'm gonna go use the bathroom, and I'll be right back, chat. But yeah, Squidward's suicide wasn't very tasteful, if you understand what I mean. It got it up as shock value, and that was all. And I feel like it could have done it much, much better than that. Oh. Hold on. Whoa. It's the same channel. My house walkthrough as that. That's insane. Wow. Okay. Wow. My goodness. This was 17 years ago. Chat, 17 years ago this was made. This is an OG creepypasta. Alright. I suppose we can watch it. Actually. Welcome back after repo. Yeah, it is ASMR. Welcome back. we were reading creepypastas. And there's a video connected to this one. And yes, I know, ASMR, unexpected. I'm trying something new here. Oh. Interesting. Yeah, because when you try to go to 666, the whole thing is that the whole page ends up going wild. DDD. Yeah, it starts turning blood red. Here's where it starts getting fucked up, yeah. The victims, it says there at the top. It might get loud here, chat. It might get loud. So, if you're using headphones and they're very, very far up, you might want to turn them down. Crazy. Oh god, I've turned into one of those reaction channels now that doesn't say anything the entire time. That wasn't my intention here, chat. Oh no, I'm a reaction channel, chat. Very terrible. But yeah, I remember hearing about this a very, very long time ago, but I didn't ever see this original video. I maybe just saw it inside of a video covering different creepypastas. There's another 50 seconds left. All their other websites are now 666 as well, it seems. Broadcast it. That was a bang inside of like real life. Yeah, there's someone coming in. They can't even turn off the PC, which is crazy. At this point, you're already done for. Why even go do this? Because there's nothing good that's going to come of it. I'm predicting a jump scare. I'm predicting a jump scare here. Chat. Just watch yourself. Yep. That was a lot more tasteful than I thought it was going to be. Without a doubt, chat, we've ended our, I've just started my retirement from being a reaction channel. But yeah, here we are. Username 666, also known as SM66, or Nico Duga. It's a video posted by Japanese YouTube channel Nana82573. It shows what apparently happens when one searches for the username 666. on YouTube and then refreshes the page multiple times. The video has gained notoriety since its release and is generally regarded as one of the internet's first urban legends. Much discussion has taken place regarding its content and authenticity, leading to many rumors and recreations in the years since its initial upload. Nana825763 has also created several other similarly themed and presented horror videos, including a username 666 sequel titled simply Another YouTube. While an account with the name 666 has been proven to exist on YouTube, it is not known with 100% certainty who owned it or why it was banned. However, evidence brought up in this video suggests that Nana825763 was the owner of the account, and that it was taken down by Google or YouTube following a complaint about its graphic and repulsive nature made on a help forum. The below narrativization of the original video was translated and edited from Japanese. YouTube is a remembered place of history. Back in 2006, not much was known about it. Most of the community was just people uploading cat videos, but one particular user caused enough controversy to be recalled. The channel had posted a ton of gore porn and blood fetish material, earning them a ban for violating the site's terms of service. Such material can still be accessed, however. One day, a person on YouTube posted their experience with the channel from a defunct blogging website. I worked for YouTube during 2006. I was a busy employee and uploaded videos there too. What I didn't know was why some of the YouTube moderators had suspended a particularly troublesome account. I was more so wondering why I wasn't allowed to visit the page rather than what was on it. Eventually, one of the other moderators handed me a piece of paper with a written ink link on it. He then pleaded me not to ask about the, quote, secret username, unquote, ever again. The link led to a user page. The URL was simply www.youtube.com/666. That day, I went home after work and typed it into my computer, finding that the account was suspended. But when I refreshed the page several times, some things changed. The layout became gradually more red and distorted. All of the video tags turned into the letters X666, and every single piece of text on the screen also said 666. I thought someone was hacking my computer, but I denied it and continued to refresh the page. Just then, a channel popped up. 666's banned channel. I looked at some of the videos. Most of them were crazy depictions of gore, smothered in distorted, swirled graphics. I decided to leave the video I was watching and went back to click on another, but a blank pop-up appeared instead. I clicked an empty button and it took me to another video by 666. The video consisted of a woman drowning in a pool of blood and other horrible things happening. Naturally, I thought this was disgusting, so I tried to pause it. It didn't let me. It wasn't responding. I decided to close Internet Explorer, but it wouldn't budge. Going on another video didn't work either. I thought there was no way out until I remembered the shutdown button. Of course, I decided to shut down my computer so that whatever virus this was would relinquish its hold. But the button wouldn't work. Shutdown buttons respond all the time. I knew then that I must have been hacked. All hope was lost. I couldn't get out of Explorer, and the video just kept going on and on. The girl was staring at me, all while random horrible sounds burst from my speakers. At the very end, her hand popped out of the video box and crashed my computer. After a few days, I was fired. That horrid experience with 666's channel had affected me too much, and I could no longer work my job. That was when I thought of something. Could this actually have been made by the devil? Or was it just a joke to scare YouTubers? Either way, the myth was very mysterious. I hadn't gotten any sleep after watching those videos. I wonder who made them. Unquote. The blogspot became defunct 2 days after the above blog was posted. If anyone tried to access it, a message would pop up saying, "Removed by admin, error code 666. The blogger sent me his experience by email, asking me to post it on this website. He also left a note. Never visit nor refresh username 666. Once you have finished, it will never stop. It won't come out." Unquote. I'm not sure what he means. I hope no one has ever tried this. That altering the word watch in a YouTube URL would take the user a trim-cropped, re-upload version of the original username 666 video, while they thought of something genuine, devilry, or an international Easter egg at a part of the YouTube. It was soon discovered, and the phenomenon was result of the user casual channel, user 2002510, hacking into several accounts and redirecting your URLs, likely as a prank. User also made their own videos appear on many accounts' homepages, provoking a wave of videos addressing the issue. The account has been since terminated, and the Easter egg no longer works. Very interesting. No, the link will more than likely not work. Although this Easter egg down here is quite intriguing, I'll say that at the very least. But yeah, those have been our creepypasta readings. Very interesting to do. It's very, very interesting. Very different from what I normally do on stream chat. Yeah. Alright. I think that will do with all of stream for today. Let me know if you guys enjoyed the change in format for today. Okay, good night. For sure. Oh, hey, Trizzy Trey. What's going on? I know, I'm normally very, very loud. Trizzy Trey is one of the OGs. We were seeing how people would enjoy ASMR, creepypasta stories. Yeah. But yeah, we will be getting into our raid for tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed all of what we did today. And yeah, thank you guys so much for coming in and watching. Let me go ahead and find someone to raid. There we go. Well, then, everybody, without a doubt, that will be court adjourned. Thank you all so much for coming here. Your laugh is so sinister as ASMR Cream. Thank you. I know, I always have a villain laugh. But yeah, we'll be raiding Nifty Nicks, the stinky one of them all, the stinkiest one of them all. So go say hi, show him some love,
And yeah, that will be all for stream. Good night, everybody. And I'll see you guys next time. All right? Bye bye. Bye. Bye bye bye. Bye bye. Bye. Bye bye.